Hello and welcome to Evolve Yourself podcast. I'm Lahaina. I'm a confidence coach and I'll be your host. This is a space for thought-provoking conversation on a variety of topics from healing and coaching modalities, spirituality to health hacks and entrepreneurial tips. Today I have an amazing guest, Darren. He's a holistic performance coach who helps people have fulfilling personal and professional relationships so that they can connect with people on a deeper level and achieve high individual and team performance. Hi, Darren.
Hi, Lana. Great to be here.
Such an honor to have this chat. I was just telling you, as these are some of my favorite topics, communication and relationships. I feel like whenever we're struggling is because we are disconnected, right? So there must be some fears around connecting with other people. We're isolating. That's how we feel more and more depressed, more anxiety.
Mm.
And I would love to hear from you to start with. What have inspired you to dive deep into this field? And was there any like pivotal moments that brought you into this journey?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to quickly preface, from the age of 17, I've been a really sporty kid. I wanted to play professional sport. And so movement was my thing. I became a personal trainer. And then about 8 years ago was when and I was already learning about mindset and high performance to benefit me as an athlete from about the age of 16 and 17. And I even like personally experienced how much changing my mindset or harnessing my mental performance enhanced things to the point where in the groups of kids I was playing with, they were just dumbfounded that I was playing at a higher level because they used to like make fun of me and things like that. And so that's probably the first pivotal moment where I realized that mindset influences like everything we do. But then, looking back now, I wasn't so much understanding that when it comes to relationships, that was actually about the relationship I had with myself. It's like every time I'm thinking or making a decision or if there's an action that's happened, I actually had an internal relationship with that before I actually went and did something. So, making the unconscious conscious then gives me more control over my actions and the results I want and the experience I want to have. So that I would say is the first one, but then going to now coaching in communication, whether that's personal relationships between individuals and couples, sometimes with businesses, or it transfers across to entrepreneurs who have challenges in relationships. That I always think we want to help people with the things that we want help with, and I absolutely have wanted help with that over the course of 2 decades because I was in my 20s and I always felt like I needed to catch up when I like even when I was younger. Maybe it's something to do with being the youngest in my family, and I was a year younger than everyone in my grade at school. Maybe that was it. But then even when it came to relationships and like meeting women, dating, that always felt like I was in a rush, and everyone else was dating and being giving intimate and stuff, and I was like I was behind. And um, yeah, I was kind of like I was just desperate and needy and a lot of the time, and couldn't really maintain a relationship. I think the longest one that I had across the first, my adult life of like 18 to 28, let's say the first 10 years of my adult life was like 3, 4 months was the longest relationship I had. And the other ones would be I'd get together with them and then they might end it very quickly. And um, yeah, I begin to I understand like what was going on there, and I had no idea at the moment of how much like my perception, like how I see myself impacted that and my upbringing, my experience in my family, my point of view. So I'd say to get to the significant moment which really shifted or also how I can help, because I think that can only help someone to the degree that if something with personally experience. So probably the thing that I always come back to, I had done coaching frameworks and models and systems of how to communicate effectively how to create your ideal fulfilling relationship. So I had the mental models and I was then using them in my own relationship. Like I'm married for 8 years now, together with my wife, I think 9 or 10. And so I was just using that and it was great. But then to actually personally experience the ways in which I had sabotaged myself mentally, emotionally. I remember, and just a quick background, say when I first got with my now wife, I'd left the military, so I'd been in these environments where I had mentally overcome a lot of fears, in a high performing environments, also male dominant environments where basically the goal every day is to tease each other so that you continually to mentally toughen, like strengthen. If you don't, you know, if you don't actually take that to heart and take it personally, which is it's actually a good thing for men that they need to go through that. And every father actually wants to tease their kid. I'll just mention that because I get a lot of parents who I coach and it transfers across so much, like all of the relationship education and improving those skills transfers across to your kid feeling safer and developing them to be maintain a, an authentic self and have great high self-esteem, all these sorts of things, and be emotionally intelligent. um so just prefacing that, because I had a lot of resilience already, so actually quite calm in the chaos. Then when I'd opened my own gym, so I had my own business, I had this fitness studio, and within a year or two, I'd built that to the point in which I had people like running that for me. My wife and I moved to beach here to the Gold Coast where we live, and then within about 3 months or so, my main employee wanted to start their own business, and I just remember basically having a panic attack because I had my now wife and I, we just moved, we had our dog, and we didn't know anyone else. We were opening yoga studio, and I told her I needed to go back and figure out what was going on, and she just started crying. And so I felt this pull to be able to, support the woman I love that I'm about to marry, and also, going to panic mode. What am I going to do? I'm like, how am I going to keep my business going? I'm going to go back and run the whole thing myself again and be back and forth, flying up and down, or am I going to rehire? I had 2 weeks to figure it all out because the lease was just finishing. Anyway, I basically went back down there, and it couldn't have gone any worse. It ended up looking like I was firing the employee when uh, she was telling me she was quitting, right, to start her own business and wanted me to pay her for 4 weeks for free. And I said, we may as well go now. So
Wow.
then I asked her to leave, and she got in the Facebook group of the whole community and told her he's getting rid of me. So then just like all clients left except for one. And so anyway, I'll get to the point. My point
That's
is that
definitely a pivotal moment.
yeah, well, I haven't even got, yeah, like, and then so my point of view right now is like, I'm having this huge money, business stress, and not so much money, but it was like, yeah, what's going to happen in the future? It was like real anxiety, which I wasn't used to, right? It took a lot to get me to that state. And um, I then, staying at my parents' house because that was the only place I could stay since we'd moved. I remember it was a Sunday afternoon, 2 days after I'd gotten there, and all this had happened. And I just started to reconnect with my brother. We hadn't been close for most of our life. It's about like this is late 20s. And I remember sitting in his room and we started talking, having this conversation about how he'd gone to see all these mutual friends we had. He's a lot older, he's about 7 years older. And I always had these conversations that I would be around people and people would say things about my brother, how he was like awkward and weird. And there was like a part of me that was really angry about that they were saying bad things, but also um, we weren't close, right? And I also, a part of me felt bad that they were saying it, but a part of me resented him because I'm trying to make friends, and then I'm like associated with the awkward dude. So it's like weird. And then we're sitting in his room. This is after we'd really like reconnected. He like told me in the last year or two before that that he actually resented me growing up because I was the youngest and I started getting all the attention in the family, and therefore he didn't. As the like the next oldest boy, he actually said to my mum, "Can you put him back in?" Like So,
Taking
but
back.
yeah, yeah, but he actually like brought that up and said, "I want you to know that, yeah, like I resented you," and I said that's okay. We connected more through honesty, and so I'm sitting in his room. All this is going on. I'm really like stressed, and he starts telling me this story about how he went to this wedding with a lot of these guys who used to tease him, and I would be around these people talking about him, and he goes, "Oh, they really treat me like so much better than they used to," and I just started to learn about like how people treat you, how you see yourself. It's really a reflection of what you're giving out or what kind of energy, like if you don't think that something's offensive to you, then people can say whatever they want about that thing. It's like if I say you have blue hair, you're like, what are you talking about? Okay, weirdo. Like it just does not affect you at all.
Yes.
And in that moment, I just realized, they completely changed how they treat you because of how you treat yourself. And I was just so, um, like I had this moment of compassion where, yeah, I was like so happy that he had changed how he was seeing himself. And I
Mm,
said that to him. And then the next thing he said to me was, because he was like kind of affected by things people would say and sensitive about it. And he told me about like for 2 years straight in school, he was physically beaten. Like he got into fights every single day. And so, in order to cope with that, his only coping strategy was to smoke marijuana every single day. So he smoked it for like 10 years straight, every single day. So he just numbed himself from this pain and anxiety and fear that he was going through. And I was judging him the whole time he was doing that. So I feel like what happened there was it collapsed like 10 or 20 years of resentment and judgment on him, but also I realized in the moment that it was the judgment on myself as well of how like anything less than perfect or being good or high achiever, because that's what I kind of how I kind of fit in the family of
mm,
excelling at sport and not school, but sport. Um, that I realized I was just so judgmental of myself that if I didn't reach any standard, no matter how unrealistic it was, that I would just constantly be in this stressed, disconnected state, like you said, disconnected from myself.
mm,
And judging him was just a way of like pushing that away from me and not dealing with it. And I just broke down crying.
mm,
And I cried in his arms for a while. And then that day, I remember going to meet another friend, and I still get like chills talking about it now. I sat in an open cafe, like crying like a blubbering mess for about an hour or two because I feel like it was just this huge release of like decades of judging myself. And I still remember like it was like kind of a bit of laughing and crying at the same time because my friend who was with me, she'd had these major shifts in her life. And I remember talking to her after, and she's like, I couldn't understand a lot of what you were saying about how you were telling me this amazing, epiphany you'd had. But I just cried in a public cafe for like an hour or two. And that was a really significant moment for me to realize how the way, if I look back now, what I understand and what I teach is that I think we're all looking for wealth in in where like we think it's wealth in the form of like lifestyle freedom, money, but it's actually emotional wealth. It's actually the ability to experience, like you said, deep connection, joy, appreciation, and that's nowhere other than here right now.
mm.
And yeah, so I think most people are in emotional poverty,
Yes.
and we we need to learn how to get back to emotional wealth. And so what that happens is what that creates and what that's created for me is to detach from the illusion of financial wealth, freedom of lifestyle, that kind of wealth of, wealth of location. Because I've met people and had mentors who had time freedom, geographical freedom, um, and what's the other one?
Time,
Time, money. Yeah,
money,
time, freedom. So you can do whatever they want, whenever they want.
location.
Money and location. Yeah, they were miserable. Like he was depressed and angry all the time, and it's because that's the illusion. We're climbing the ladder of success, and it's on the wrong wall, and we need to address our yeah, our emotional, spiritual well-being, because everything filters down from that. I'd actually say that spiritual well-being is the highest. Uh,
Mm,
if it was like if our well-being was a pyramid, spiritual would be either the foundation that everything's built upon. Yeah, we'll say that way, not the other way. And that's my experience anyway. So now that I actually practice a connection to, and I'm a really practical person, so this isn't about something really out there. It's just like, am I aware and appreciative of uh like that it's not just me and it's not just my partner or my family. There's a whole universe out there. There's a whole planet. There's a whole bunch of people that I'm a part of. You
mm.
know, that's
It's an ecosystem, right?
yeah. And it actually,
Really,
if
I
we're
love.
talking about relationships and communication, one of the most powerful things we can do is change our language from I, or all statements or questions, dialogues with our partner that reflect back to like what I want to what we want. What's about
Mm,
us. Like when I coach men, one of the biggest things I noticed, and I've noticed this with me previously, was that look at all the ways that a man wants to be intimate, because if a man's not getting intimacy and he's feeling frustrated or resentful about it, that's a sign of emotional immaturity, because that is all about him getting something, right? But if he truly was connected or aware of in that moment of us and the all, let's say everything, he would say, and this is a statement that I think is a great example of us instead of I, is we deserve intimacy.
mm, interesting.
It changes
Mm,
the whole paradigm, the whole point of view. And
mm,
I think we were just talking about, mentor you've had, Cody. I think one of the most powerful ways we can change is through a paradigm shift that I've heard him say. And that's spot on. It's like if we just shift the paradigm, I think that most of the, if not all the pain we experience, like emotionally from the stress we have, is because we have this lie of a whole network of beliefs, a paradigm that our whole point of view is sitting upon.
yes. And one thing that I was thinking, so I love your share, and I felt like there were definitely three main parts to it. So your relationship with yourself, which most people don't really acknowledge when we talk about relationships. So I love that you started with that. Like, w- how do I know myself? What's really coming up for me? What are my challenges? And in that moment in time for you was dating or relationships. And yes, I love that you brought that up, because I'm coaching women on confidence, and it always go back to what is your relationship with yourself, right? Because that's when we are afraid of judgment, or they are judging me because I'm wearing this, or I'm constantly judging them because they're doing this and that.
Yeah.
Is that separation, and that's the like projection.
Mm,
You also share about your relationship with your wife. Congratulations on being, with someone for 10 years. That's an accomplish on itself these days. And like you said, just that relationship, like partnership, romantic, which is the same in business, but you're constantly dealing with that person, right? So it's having access to this,
mm,
yeah, models of communication, or what works for
mm,
you as a couple, or understanding yourself and the other person. So I really love that you share about that. And
mm,
thirdly, with, family, which I think is our biggest triggers. I know with my family, I feel triggered all the time.
mm.
And yeah, it's having those deep, vulnerable conversations, because family ties are so strong, and there's so much shit that goes on since we're born, right? So your brother was holding on to things, you're holding on to things, and as the
Mm.
year goes by, it starts to pile up if there's not a cleaning up, like some
Yeah.
conversations to clean up stuff from the past, I guess,
Yeah.
builds on itself.
Mm,
Yeah, so I really love those three examples. And then what I was thinking through your share is that no one really teaches about these things, right? No one really teaches about relationships, about communication, about vulnerability, about having those challenging communications, conversations, I guess.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that no one really teaches it is because we're so ignorant, and not in a I'm not judging or guilty. I'm saying like just the neutral form of ignorant of like what we're not aware of. We're so not aware of firstly, the all the research on relationships. So there's like, you know, there's a scientific principle in a relationship that I might teach a client, and it completely transforms the relationship. But then there's also the instinctive aspect that I think takes precedent to the research, because if you feel something is right for you, that's the same as we're talking about like discovering who you are, your authentic self. You can't give me any evidence as to why that is you're just you, like in the way you do things. That's instinctive, right? So we actually have to have that as the priority over any of these teachings. And um, just as an example, what I've learned is you talk about vulnerability. I actually realize there's such an important uh, definition there, or a separation that's required when it comes to men or women. I don't any longer believe that men should be completely vulnerable around women, because I think biologically and instinctively, through the perception of safety from a woman, that can actually, well, I've had an experience in my relationship. It can actually worsen the relationship. And whether a man believes it or not, he says, I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to handle this. And he goes and does whatever the fuck he needs to become competent at the skills he needs, which will actually, you talk about confidence or anything like that, like part of his perception of low self-worth or, emotional chaos is coming from his lack of competency, because he's associating what he does with who he is, because he just hasn't gotten so deeply competent in something that he can't separate who he is from what he does. And you see the men who are really competent, not only do they get this huge hormonal emotional boost within their physical body, and then the inspiration that comes along with doing the thing that you're great at, that you're passionate about. Like I experienced that through coaching, but also I can separate these two things, right? I can say, wow, I get all of these great feelings and I'm inspired to act on these things. And also I've developed a sense of acceptance and like enoughness, that without doing all those things, I can also accept myself for who I am. But then I get the bonus of what I do as well. And if I didn't keep doing things, eventually I would probably cloud my own judgment of still accepting myself. It's like men must build their skills and be working towards something. And if men are building, they won't need to be vulnerable with a woman, because they'll be so confident that they'll handle that. But in saying that, this is now I've realized that having a group of male men to turn to is not a luxury, it's a must. And the men who don't will never be able to fully emotionally, mentally, spiritually develop to the point at which they are the emotionally adult men, not the emotionally immature children boys we have in most adult male bodies. They won't be able to develop to the point at which women who choose the bear over the man actually can go, oh, I was just choosing the bear over the man because there isn't a man nearby who I would trust. But a we need to get such a large group of men together that are so dangerous, dangerously safe, right? They're so dangerous that they have it under control, that they're safe, and they're demonstrating examples of being safe around, women and children, so that those numbers of men overpower the ones who are unsafe due to their emotional immaturity, their deprivation of fathers is a huge part of it, because, fathers teach boundaries, fathers tease the child, like I said, so that they learn social intelligence and they don't take things to heart or take things personally. They learn how to, have a laugh at themselves so that they can, yeah, like develop mental resilience and self-esteem. So I could go on and on about the dad deprived thing. There's so many, there's research and all these sorts of things. But yeah, I guess my point is definitely that point I want to make, because it's something that's changed recently for me, realizing that no, there is a specific place for men to go and completely talk about, and that's why I didn't go into the thing with my brother on such a deep level of this
Mm.
is what happened. These are all my feelings involved with it. That's not a thing that the way that we're set up as as animals, as a race, that actually works. Like I don't remember examples of that working really well. Like, we can definitely, I love John Wineland's work. I don't know if you've seen him, but he talks about how he'll come home to his partner and they've got a crazy story where she was a student of his teachings and then they broke up and all this stuff. But he came home and was feeling a lot and he said, "Can you support me?" And she could, but she's been through a decade of development to not like be completely flooded with stress because he feels unsafe. That's not happening in the everyday kinds of relationships where we've got, the responsibilities of kids, we've got 5 and 2-year-old and work for most people. Like not everyone's an entrepreneur. It's like, no, it's it's gonna work best for the man to like go and handle all of his really stressful stuff with a group of men who number one, have also already been through it, or
Mm.
at least there's somebody leading that group that's been through it, which is what I have a community I've created called the Sovereign Men Community, which is about that. It's about like men being able to come and say anything they want and leaving with actions to implement once
Mm.
they've got that off their chest. And so that, for the women and children around them, they can just see the safe man. It doesn't mean that they don't ever get stressed or cry. I think that's okay, but they don't divulge into it such to a level where they're showing their helplessness, their feelings of helplessness or their feelings of inadequacy so much. Like that's a deeper level of really needing support, and that's what the brothers, the symbol, what brothers are symbolic of. Other men are symbolic of brothers and
Mm.
father figures and things like that.
I love that. I'm just learning this for the first time that you're sharing about men's vulnerability. And yeah, it's definitely sinking in. So thank you so much for teaching us about this,
Yeah.
your new discovery. I
And
was,
I just, sorry, and I really apologize for jumping in. It just, I feel like there's such nuance to this as well because it doesn't, I think that we also see vulnerability as we can confuse that as men in particular as then like not showing any emotion, like to still be able to express and talk in a way that I'm connected to my heart, like I'm actually aware that I'm happy. I'm being joyful as I speak to you. I can still be really strong and resilient and mentally in control and like empty mentally so that I'm ready to, protect, provide, build, or create whatever the things I'm passionate about. But also like I'm talking from my genuine self, which is connected to my heart. That's I don't really put that in the vulnerability basket. That's the authenticity basket. So I think a lot of people get that confused. And I even hear men who are talking about don't be vulnerable, that I still get this sense I'm like, yeah, but I'm not, you don't seem like really like joyful. And I'm not talking about smiling, but like I'm not getting this like you're connected to your heart and so other people can feel how open you are and like you're not teaching this as an absolute rule must. It's like ultimately anything I'm saying as well. And I say to my clients, don't trust me, test it out for yourself.
yes,
And
that's what I was thinking is a level of practicing, getting
mm,
better, calibrating. What I'm here is like calibrating your nervous system, still in your masculine energy. There is a level of vulnerability, authenticity, but yeah, there is a limit to it. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, it's just defining what it is actually. Yeah. Like, if I'm joyful and I'm talking about like things that I love, or even I talk about anything in concepts, the two principles of that to me, which is about authenticity and like I think you can't be authentic unless you're really like, enjoying yourself, which means I would call that connected to your heart. I'm a very practical person. So getting back to the
Yeah.
practicality, if I'm aware of my heart, right? It's the same as like if I'm aware I'm feeling hungry, I know that I'm hungry, right? Or if I'm aware that I'm hungry and I check I'm thirsty first, get hydrated. That's just body awareness. If I'm aware of my heart, then that's authenticity to me. And the two principles that show that I'm connected, that give me evidence, are nobody feels controlled by me, and more freedom is created by what I talk about. Like those are the two principles of being loving and open hearted to me. So I check and I'm like, does anybody feel controlled around me? Does anybody feel more trapped or things like that? Um, and then the vulnerability part is, it's really like me dealing with the illusion, right? It's all the falsities and the lies that I'm telling myself. That's ultimately what we're going through in vulnerability, I think, is the ways we've lied to ourselves that make us feel really crap. Like we picked up all these false things about ourselves. Like, you know, a kid gets locked in the room at night when they really need mum or dad to feel safe. They feel so actually, I heard the greatest quote yesterday. It was, when we yell at a child or a child feels unsafe around us, they don't, I'm trying to remember it as I say it, they don't think that you're a bad person. They think that they're a bad person.
Yes.
They make it about them.
Yeah,
And
because their brain is not developed to a sense
that
that we have as grown-ups, that separation, like you're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing. And they take
exactly.
literally everything so personable.
That's right.
That's why
Yes.
we all carry so much like trauma,
Yeah.
multi-trauma
Yeah. Yeah.
about emotional neglect because we take everything so personally. So even a mom and dad saying, no, I don't have time for this right now, or no, you can have this right now, it can create
Yeah.
a massive ripple effect later of like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not
Yeah.
deserving.
That's where it all stems from, right?
That's
And I've got a 5-year-old daughter, and
mm.
um, I've heard her say things where I'll say, I've got a 2-year-old boy and a 5-year-old daughter, and I said something like, I'm going to take him to the park and not you. And she goes, oh, that means you don't love me. I'm like, whoa, you know?
Where did
So
you get that? It was
yeah,
nothing of that
and
stuff.
that, and yeah, and that's
It's
that's
what
that.
we make it mean, isn't it? And I always give the example, maybe a
Yeah,
child have a fall and hurt themselves, and one child will make it mean the world is dangerous, and the other one will make it mean, oh, I had a fall, like it's fine.
absolutely.
And so
Yeah.
it's all those small thoughts and feelings that
Hmm.
no one is aware of it because it can be so internal, and yeah, no one
Yeah.
knows.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's right. Like what I'm constantly teaching people is how to build their own emotional map, because ideally a parent does that with a child whenever they feel unsafe. They say, "Oh, are you physically hurt, or are you scared?" So we're getting them to separate a physical feeling from an emotional feeling, a
Wow,
fear,
that's
physical
amazing.
pain. Yeah. So, we've got emotional pain and we've got physical pain. And then we've got internal pain, right? My daughter broke her arm 2 weeks ago. She learned about the internal pain of a bone breaking, even deeper than usual physical, like muscle or something.
That's another skill that we don't learn. And I also read the beautiful book from Brene Brown, Atlas of the Heart, which she names 86 emotions. And,
Yes.
when you ask most people, like 95% of humans only know how to name five emotions, happy, sad, anxiety, da, da, da.
Mm.
And she names 86, and how important it is for us to actually be able to, label our emotions and understand and connect deeper further with what each flavor of it is different from the other thing.
Yeah.
But I just want to go back to the man and vulnerability. So yeah, I was just thinking about, I'm dating at the moment, so I love a man that can go deep and be vulnerable, but I notice if they are super vulnerable with me on the first few dates, they also pull back really quickly. So I feel like they open up really quickly and really deep, and then there must be some shame or some, mechanism that gets triggered, and
Mm.
they pull back because there's almost that thing like, oh, I was too open. So
Mm.
I totally understand what you were saying. Not that I didn't feel safe in their presence or in the
Mm.
relationship, but for them, something else came up as well in terms of
Mm.
being so vulnerable.
Can you give me an example of what they said? Because I think this is so important, what we're talking about. Like, I
Yeah, that's
wonder.
why I love this conversation. So I remember two examples. One was actually our very first date, and he told me all about how I think his mom passed away just, maybe a couple of months ago. And also he had a new daughter, which was from a one night stand. So, the whole, like, there was no relationship with the mother, but he was telling me all about that
Mm.
daughter that he actually really love and wants to spend time with. So, very vulnerable
Mm.
topics. And the other person was telling me how he was adopted, and yeah, a lot of like childhood, I think, challenges, and then yeah,
Mm.
a lot of hurt and pain, you know, big T
See this?
trauma stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. See,
The
this is
very
like,
first date, on the very first date.
yeah. See, this is like such a great example. Like the first guy you tell me,
Hmm.
I think that's fantastic. Like he's honest, and I think he's actually, if you're ready for it, right, he's speeding up the process of you actually deepening your friendship, like through, because you're talking to me, like you're saying the word love, right? He loves this daughter. Maybe he's got some things to navigate, but he's not really telling you the really like stressful, traumatic things that he's going through. Like that's that I'll take care of it energy. I feel like he's just like probably it sounds like he's scared to just show himself like all the things he loves. But I feel like that's authenticity. I'm saying, like the vulnerability part is the other guy who's like telling you about all his fears. And this is the thing, and this is why I'm talking about it, because I would have done this so many times. I
Hmm.
can remember so many times like I would go to my mom and tell her things. Like I would not tell my mom about stresses I'm going through anymore. Like I've realized now that the result of all of the men in my mother's life are reflective of her stress levels, of
Hmm.
how well she is, because a woman's not biologically designed to handle a man who is physically stronger and the one who's always gone out and hunted and physically built things that we just not yet like fully evolved to the point in which you can handle all of that vulnerability and still, go about your day and do all the things that women do best, which is I think women birth and bring things and create things into the world. That's not something, yes, that involves pain. That's why their pain threshold's higher, but it's not something that involves like this huge physical activity of building things. I think women are amazing now with CrossFit and like the amazing physical strength. It's amazing. Like I love women, I appreciate women and all people. And I still do believe that a woman's strength is like how she's there. The metaphor I always say is like the metaphor of the man and woman dancing.
Hmm.
He's moving her around and leading her through the dance to show her off. It's
Hmm.
not for him. Or yes, he gets something out of that because he's like, look at this amazing woman, but it's not her not doing anything. It's not, lazy or to take away from what she is capable of, but it's like, you know, how do you thrive best? And I see women who have the time and space, like
Hmm.
more time and space, are the ones who thrive best.
I love that analogy. I could picture the man is like this strong pillar, right? And he's like throwing her around and doing all these moves, but
Yeah,
he holds that strength, physical and like what you're saying, actually emotional and energetically, so the woman can dance
yeah,
beautifully and thrive, and that's what everyone's looking at. And yeah, I have a share and then a follow-up question on this same
yeah.
topic. So I also
And I might be like, if you want to, challenge me for sure. Like, if you think that was different to what I said about one was authentic and like could have been good if he could handle it and keep being honest. The other one was vulnerable and like a turn off. I'd love to hear from you about that as well.
I think I'm always so honor. I have a very like inviting personality. I think
Mm.
that's why I have lots of friends, clients that really love me because I have the non-judgmental presence. And so I really feel so honored when people open up to me so vulnerably and so deeply, so quickly. But yeah, for me, it was more about their own behavior that I notice when they go
Yeah,
to, and like you said, it opens up for friendship and conversation. And yeah, I
yeah,
feel so honored and blessed that people trust me with their like biggest secrets or traumas.
yeah.
But I felt their energy was more like pulled back because it went too fast, right? So I think there's also a build up, so especially in dating or maybe new friendships, there is a build up time for things to happen a little bit more
So
natural,
do I have permission to tell you what I think a challenge will be
of
for
course.
you in relationship? Is that
Tell me.
it's a really, really positive thing for you.
Mm.
Like men will fear your emotional maturity.
Mm.
Like your ability to be non-judgmental, you'll need to find a man who is non-judgmental of himself as well.
Yes.
Because if they said either of that, and I've said things, and this is tricky to what I said about vulnerability. Like I've said to my wife, we had like a breakthrough conversation. I was like, I've just realized today, um, I'm like feeling this and that. My dad's had cancer and been unwell. There's like heaps of things going on in my life,
Mm,
the challenges. And I told her, and she started crying. This is
mm,
what I'm talking about. But then I said, hey, none of that is about you. I'm just letting you know that I'm noticing these thoughts and these
mm,
feelings.
mm.
And this is where, like I'm saying, like I wouldn't even potentially go to her with that. I might, I went to her because it was like I'd already gone to my my guys, my brotherhood, my tribe of men that are at that level of maturity, and I still needed to say, how I need you to know I'm going through stuff. So this stuff isn't about you, so that she doesn't, because we all, and I still do it too. Like we tend to take things personally. Oh, this is about me, that tone of voice or whatever. It's not about us, right? Nothing is about us that another person is doing. No other person is about us.
Well, in
So
dating, that's the biggest thing, isn't it? Because every date that doesn't move forward into a relationship, the first thing that I feel is like something's wrong with me, or I did something wrong, or what
yeah,
happened. And then
yeah,
there's always that self-coaching about no, like they're going through whatever they're going through
yes,
at this
yeah,
time, which I have no idea. Sometimes they share with me, sometimes they don't. But yeah, it's not blaming anything about myself in
yeah,
why it didn't work out.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, but my share was actually about women feeling unsafe, and I actually got really good download. It was my dad, and not long ago, he shared with me he's feeling quite depressed. And to be honest, that was so heart crushing. And I didn't blame it on me, but I just felt, like you said, I did feel unsafe. And it's almost like, what do I do with this information now? Like
yeah.
it, like a lot, and especially not just as a woman, but as a daughter. So, it's
Can I
like
give you feedback again? All
double
right.
charge. Yes. But my
Yeah.
question was on this is like, if I see a man in these situations, like how do I then talk to them about having a men's group, having support? Because I'm like, how do I even talk to him about this?
Well, I'm gonna pretend I'm you, and you just said it, okay? Because
Yeah.
it's so interesting
Mm.
hearing all the time. So I have these conversations about, oh, what do I do? It's literally what you just said, like with your dad. I don't feel safe hearing this, and I don't know what to do with it. Literally relaying that back is actually the greatest feedback for him, because one of the greatest gifts for a man is it's a gift for him to take care of a woman, and whether it's father, daughter, or it's your actual partner, when he becomes aware that he's done the opposite, he will quickly change behavior.
Okay, got
Men,
it.
men have literally gotten out of hospital beds from being in comas when they heard about that women needed help in wars.
Yes.
Like they jumped in these stranded ambulances and started driving. They hadn't gotten out of fucking bed for months. Like that's what I'm saying. Like
I actually think he's depressed because he has no one to take care of.
there you go. Exactly.
There's
That's
no
exactly.
purpose. And he said that. He's like, I have no purpose right now.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about the couple of like models that I teach in relationship, because I don't hear about them often and they're really helpful. And there's an important part to that will determine whether the relationship ends or keeps going if you don't have this. Um, just the last thing I want to say on that is I would then say, if I were you, I'd say I don't think that men should be this vulnerable to women. I don't think that's for women. I think that's only for other men. So like by actually like personally expressing your point of view would be the best way to influence without trying to lead. Because anything other than that would be then you like he's looking for reassurance from a woman and he's still not finding a way to lead himself. And he's only going to get that truly
And I
through.
know it's worse when the women try to fix them, right? So if I say do this and this and that, it's like I'm still trying to give you solutions and trying to fix you.
Yeah, and here's the hardest part, right? So even as you said to me, I'm feeling this and I don't know what to do with it. You didn't say it right because you're scared of actually adding to the load. But ironically, adding to the load is the best thing for him. He needs load. Men need things to carry. But women
Interesting.
and women need the things they're carrying to be carried for them.
And that's what's
Is
so
that
upside
true? You
down.
agree?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's super upside down in our society at the moment, as with the women being in the masculine and men in their feminine. But exactly
exactly.
what I said, because we care so much and we hold so much, we don't say things because we don't want to. criticize and add to the burden. So exactly what you're saying, like what we should be doing, we're not doing.
Mm.
Because
Women are like,
what
I
I
feel
could
like,
have told him straight away, I didn't, because I'm like, yeah, it's gonna make things worse. I don't want to be that straight at this
yeah.
point. Yeah.
And how it's so interesting that you actually said, after we kept talking these last couple of minutes, you said, I think he actually needs someone to take care of.
Yeah.
Like, and
Because
you've,
that's exactly what is keeping him low. Is like, I don't have a girlfriend to, take out and do beautiful things. Like his mom is self-sufficient, his sister, I'm all the way across from Brazil to Australia, So yeah, he doesn't get to be that masculine for anyone, and is really bringing him down.
so let me tell you about, I know about archetypes, all the different identities we play. So ideally people listening to this understand archetypes, it could, you're you're the mother, the father, the brother, the sister, the worker, the teacher, the artist, um the employee, the entrepreneur, the carer, the humanitarian, the healer. These are some of the really key identities for us that we'll just act out at different times. Here's what I teach in my system of creating fulfilling relationships. We merge these, we have these new identities we create when two people come together. One is best friends. That's the first one. And we go
Mm.
through this first season where we say variety is the spice of life. That's because when we're experiencing variety, the different places we go, information about each other we're exchanging, the activities we do, we are we have trust instant. It's just the same with a child, right? They go on all these different places doing different things, climbing at the parks. They have trust, so they don't need to come run over. It's only when they hit their knee or whatever, they fall off. They go, oh, running back to mum and dad. But that's why play is the key to develop more trust. Creativity comes from it as well. So that's where we form this deep friendship. And 96% of all problems in relationship are solved with deep friendship. Think about all of the disagreements, conflicts you've had with anyone ever. Best friends don't talk to each other that way. If you've ever had a disagreement with your friend, you notice how you go, oh, fuck you, and then you're friends straight away. You're like, why are you talking like, dude, shut up, stop. What's wrong with you? We just get to it so quickly, don't we? And we just reconnect
Yes.
because we've got that like assumed trust. And it's easier usually without family, with someone else, like you said. So best friends first, variety. If we have enough variety, we move to deep love, right? There's a lot of strategies being played out here. We've seen and heard certain things that we go, yeah, yeah, I've got a deep enough friendship. I'm going to introduce them to family and friends, things like that. And then the last identity is parents. We must be taking care of something together. This is where, if we zoom out to what's this relationship doing for all humans, and
Mhm.
Elon Musk is a good example. Like we can clearly see what his relationships is doing. He has children to multiple women, and whether you agree with it or not, the population's going down in humans. Different countries can only have one or two children. We used to have 12 or 13 kids per family, and that's because the way that society's set up, it doesn't support with the resources to do that for most families. And so we're getting depopulated with less people. So Elon Musk, things he's caring for, which are businesses, pets, plants, house, charities, or kids. So it can be any of those things as the couple. So see how much caring he's doing, that is actually the purpose of the relationship for the collective, for everybody. It's what we're giving back, what we're contributing to. You think of a child, we're developing it ideally to the degree in which we're contributing to it so that it can learn how to contribute back as much as possible. And then contribution is acts of unconditional love. And which principles of them are nobody feels controlled. And what the majority feel like right now? Controlled. People get more freedom. What do the majority of people not have? Freedom. So
Yes.
we need more contribution, and we need to have the understanding and the development of ourselves and the actual education of how to develop pure contribution, like contribution that is not just how can I contribute to get money, but how can I contribute with that's true contribution, unconditional love, so that people get more freedom and feel less, they feel full control of themselves, don't feel controlled by others.
Yes.
Even when other people attempt to control them, they are able to act through that contributing lens, that unconditional love, even when they feel an attempt to control them. And then that example they set keeps transforming more people and could be great people, but they're just on the lens of greed through needing to survive, and as an example, or other people who are seeking great control. Like lots of people have some people have lots of money, some not. Um, yeah, I don't think Elon's trying to control people. I don't feel controlled around Elon. I feel freer in the things he says. That's just my observation experience. So to come bring it all the way back to what you said about your dad. I say this to men all the time. You need something to care for in the relationship. If you're not caring for something together, it will end, because that's the purpose of it. That's what creates some form of legacy moving forward. It's like, oh, I'm giving something back. We all need to do that as individuals, not only in a couple. So in a relationship, yes, but then also as the individual, yeah, be caring for something as well. Get yourself a fucking plant, at least something, because we're all connected to that. We're breathing in the same air that the trees are. It's not separate to us. We are nature, and so care for something, and you start that healthy cycle of interdependence. You're
Mm.
depending on me to care for you, to water the plant, and it's releasing stress reducing hormones in the air, etc., etc. It's that healthy cycle that's constantly going on. So those are, and anyone can have this if they want after the episode, including if you want the 4 seasons of relationship. It's like a cycle.
Yes, I'm curious about that. Can you tell us a little bit more? So you have a free
Yeah.
resource called the Four
Yeah.
Seasons of Relationships.
Yeah. So I just explained the 3. So
Mhm.
think of what goes after winter, summer or spring,
Spring, summer, autumn, yeah.
autumn. No, it goes, yeah, autumn, winter, and then back to
Spring, summer.
spring and summer.
Yeah.
So spring was what I described to you, the variety, lots of variety. We're developing friendship as a couple. Then summer is love, 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 love. Meet friends and family, honeymoon phase.
Can't get your hands out of each other.
Yeah, and then autumn, leaves starting to fall to the ground. Take away variety, stay indoors because you're caring for something. Think with a kid, can't leave the house for the first few weeks barely because there's so much love, um, care, connection, contribution, growth of the baby, and it's growing so quickly that variety is the thing we lose. So our friendship is very challenged there in that stage. Obviously, like I said, we can be caring for other things as well. People who don't have kids, it's great. And then we move to winter, and that's where a lot of relationships end because they think the relationship needs to end. But what they don't realize is that the way that the relationship has been and the idea they have of their relationship in their
Mm.
mind has to end. And that's death and rebirth. So winter is where, things freeze up and dry up. And
Mm.
then when they melt away, they come back different. We get new cells every 100 days, even the cells in our teeth. It's the same thing. And I love that quote, no man enters the same river twice, for he is not the same man and it is not the same river. If
Beautiful.
we leave this conversation from a new insight, me or you, we're different people, right? In every changing moment. And so that's one of the things that this system that I teach has really helped me, that when I'm going through challenging time with my wife, maybe we couldn't resolve conflict, or we know we need a third point of view. I've said, I think that the relationship needs to die the way it's been,
Yeah, I love that.
rather than saying I think it needs to end.
Yes. And I think, yeah, we speak a lot about this, the seasons in terms of like finances. There will be a time to launch something, make money, and then there will be winter. Same
Yeah,
around our rest. Cody, our mentor and coach always says, you have to schedule your rest, otherwise you'll catch up with you and you get sick and you get
yeah,
burnout. So you just brought this to a whole new level in terms of, yeah, a romantic relationship or relationships. There will still be seasons of, excitement and growth and expansion, and then the winter. And definitely I agree with you, when you move through together, that's when you're gonna then rebirth the relationship and come, to a new relationship with the same person, but that's when most people actually go into a breakup because they can't
Yeah.
handle the winter.
Yeah, like a lot of people who have done like financially well come to me in the relationship in that winter phase where it's dying, it needs to be reborn. So for anybody listening, if they want to know like what to do in that situation, basically there's a lot of stresses that they need to let go of. It's like parts of themselves that they don't need anymore, you know? Like you've gotten to the point which you've just probably been in the first 0 to 7 years of that thing you're putting all your energy into caring for, whether it's a child or a business, that you're not the person you were before. You don't need certain things and they're still hanging around in the background. So I just help them regulate themselves and their stresses and get to the bottom of that through building the emotional map. Like I said, there was a client I had the other week who was trying to resolve conflict. And he said to me, I said sorry, but she won't say it back. She doesn't say it back. And I said, well, did you say it truly with love, like we spoke about? Not feeling, she didn't feel controlled. And he's like, yeah. And then we went through the emotion wheel, which I can send you or everyone. It just gives you a big list of like hundreds of emotions, like we said. And the best description I've heard of this as well, like you said before, is imagine you can't see the colors blue, white, and green. Like you're not going to be able to make sense of visuals. Like that's what it's like for someone who doesn't have those more emotions to describe things. And anyway, my point is, we unpacked that he could define 67 stressful emotions associated in that moment he was trying to say sorry.
Wow.
So 67 words that define the emotion and the stress he's going on. He's trying to bypass feelings of resentment, whatever it is, all these things. You can't bypass what's in your system and
Yeah.
needs acknowledgement. I know you know this. So um
I think I have this wheel. It's a massive one, yeah, with all the like each emotion
yeah,
expands to a bunch of other. Yeah, and that's exactly what we were talking about before, even knowing like I'm not angry at you, I'm resentful. I'm resenting you. It's completely different flavor, like resentment, it like
yeah.
so tangible, it's so different from just being angry.
Yeah,
So
and also saying I'm noticing a feeling of resentment, right? Rather than saying I resent you. It's like that's the lie. It's like I'm noticing I'm feeling because I'm not my feelings, I'm not my body,
mm,
and I'm not my thoughts. So I'm noticing thoughts and I'm noticing feelings. It just starts to create this separation, this conscious separation constantly that like and that gets us out of the lower level primal I'm angry at you, I'm resentful at you. It's like no, it's that feels shitty because it's not true. It's like if I notice this feeling, if I notice these thoughts, then even as we're talking, if you're triggered or reactive to, it's not about me, you take it personally. You can say, hey, I said I'm noticing these feelings, these thoughts. I'm saying they're not true. I'm noticing that they're going on for me and
mm,
I'm raising them to you so that there isn't that tension between us, so that we can now move forward with this.
yeah,
And
so I can hear is taking responsibility for your like your awareness and then communicating,
yeah,
because even this subtle change of words is not, yeah, I'm resentful,
yeah.
blaming the other person. Actually, I acknowledge that I feel resentful right
It's the
now.
same. It's the same as whenever, and kids are the biggest test of this, the easiest test to know. If you're trying to get a feeling out of a kid, because I said we need to build their emotional map, but if you're trying to get it out of them at the wrong time when they don't feel safe enough to express it, or even when you're labeled, they'll go, get away. But if I go, hey, I got really angry today,
Mm,
my my daughter's ears prick up. She's like, what was it? What was it? She's asking me. So I'm now, because I'm defining, I notice this feeling and these thoughts
mm,
really inquisitive because whenever we don't have the attention on us, then we feel safest to be curious and inquire. And we're going to get it reflected back to us. The other person's going to go, oh, I noticed this feeling too. I
mm.
noticed that thought. That was about, I noticed the thought of being resentful to you.
Yes.
And then we both go, that's interesting. And we're looking at it from the side. Like we go, oh, okay, look at that right there. Cool. I wonder what that's about.
Mm.
Let's work on this together instead of let's fight our battles outside of.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is also the best time to have these sort of conversations. Obviously, not going to be in the heat of the moment, probably not even 5 minutes after, when sometimes people are rushing, to sort things out and be like, oh,
And
I
you
want to
said
solve
something.
this. Fine.
You said something at the start. like being disconnected. If you feel disconnected, don't talk to anyone. You don't talk to anyone. You say, I feel disconnected from my heart. I'm going to go take some space until I'm connected back.
Mm.
And this
Love
just
that you keep
goes,
bringing back to the heart. So, am I connected to my heart? Am I in my heart? Because
it's
otherwise,
just,
we're coming from the head. Then again, it could be so much like bringing all the past fights and all, all these things.
and remember what I said before about that guy. So many people think they're coming from the heart and they're coming from the head. They're rescuing and fixing other people, judging them, and they think that is they're being caring. They're not. And that's
Yeah,
why they're getting
very.
the unexpected reflection back from someone reacting to them
Mhm.
because they thought that they were being caring when they weren't. Because they thought, what can I do for this person rather than asking, how can I support you? What can I do? What do you need? That's where we get the truth of heart-centered contribution and dialogue.
Yeah, if it sounds like it's still, whenever I'm still coming from me, what I can get from this, or I want to resolve this, still a lot of I in it.
Yeah,
There's the separation from the heart because you're not going to have that compassion and curiosity with the
that's
other
right.
person. You're coming from what I want to, get right now or resolve right now.
100%.
Amazing. This has been such a juicy conversation. I knew it. Like I said,
Been
my
delicious.
topics. We can stay here all day
Yeah,
long.
I know.
There's so many avenues and yeah, so many threads.
Mm.
But I think that's it. If listeners will take away one thing from this amazing conversation to transform their relationships, what would you want it to be?
Uh, Focus on the area of your heart, just the same as you would focus on your finger to move it, and say, what does my heart want right now?
I love that. Thank you.
Awareness is the beginning of all change. It's just that it seems so simple, but it's changed my life because the thing that negatively impacts our relationship the most is when we're not aware we're dysregulated and
Mhm,
we think we are.
mhm.
So what I'm constantly teaching is how to maintain regulating yourself. You feel disconnected with your partner, you must connect with yourself before you reconnect with them. Most people think they need to reconnect with their partner first. Connect with yourself.
Because it's the self-abandonment, isn't it? Like, oh, it's
If
like
you're trying to
the
reconnect with them
need for
before
the
you feel
external,
connected,
like, oh, I need them more than I need
I
myself.
need them to feel connected. That's the story that's going on. I'm depending on them
Uh,
to feel connected.
I felt that right now in my heart.
Good.
uh,
Nice.
and literally everything we spoke about, I think there's so much benefit to working with a coach, right? Because again, it's so much that we feel challenged to acknowledge ourselves in the midst of all that is happening. So all
Yeah.
this self-awareness, all this like nervous system regulation, all these communication skills,
Mm,
there's subtle nuances to it. Yeah, so I can see so much benefit of working with someone like you or like
mm,
myself that can really support the client in times of yeah, challenge and stress.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite, some of my favorite moments are when, like, I'm available 24/7 to my clients because I know there's going to be a moment where they just didn't talk to anyone before, particularly men, because of that reason I said. And they go, man, can you have a call? I'll jump on the call 15 minutes. And that's that key moment where they realize, oh shit, first, they weren't the problem. Second, I can connect back to me. Now I can connect with them because I'm connected back to me. And it's huge emotional maturity from those moments.
Do you have any quick practices that you take them through, or just you listening and just that connection with you already helps?
Quick practices
Like to get
would
into
be,
thought or yeah.
yeah, like I will say, I mean, I'll naturally know when I'm talking to, like, I've known the whole time I'm talking to you that you're in your heart. It's like I just sense it now because it will be, if I'm not in mine, I'm not focusing on mine, which is why I've practiced every day. Just check in, just be aware of that part of my body. It's
Mm,
okay. I'll pick it up if someone isn't. So I'll ask the question. I'll say, is that fear or love? Is the whole you acting out of fear or love? Because any action will recreate the same feeling that you're acting from.
that's so
You
beautiful.
can't.
I
Yeah,
think for me is the awareness when I'm in my head, right? So one big thing that will tell me I'm not in my heart, I'm in my head, I'm trying to get it right, I'm worried about how I'm being perceived. And
yeah,
again, going on dates or in a conversation or trying to solve something is
yeah.
again, yeah, am I coming from my logical brain and trying to do the right thing and trying to say the right thing? Or can I drop all of this and
Mm.
connect back to the heart space?
Yeah, and it's not head or heart as well. Like that's okay to say that way. It might help people to understand that it's either head or head and heart because 90% of the communication between the two start with our heart. So, I mean, that's why we're literally, dumber. If we're only in our head, it's 10% of that full communication between what my body is trying to tell me. I'm missing 90% of that communication from the
Yeah, so
body.
the way you were saying is like, is it from fear or from heart?
Yeah, and fear will be head only, and love will be head and heart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. And I learned so much from this conversation. I see, yeah, so much value working with you and accessing your content and your free resource, whereas the audience can find you.
Yeah, darrenbruce.com.au, or the easiest way is just on Instagram, the holistic performance coach. Anyone who wants that resource, I'm happy to share it with them.
Yes, I will make sure I'll tag your Insta and your website on the notes of this show. I want access to the seasons. I want to
Awesome.
understand them better. And thank you so much for your time. It was amazing.
My pleasure, Hannah. Thank you.